If you are born before 1966, listen carefully to the next 30 seconds, because this affects your next state pension payment directly. The Department for Work and Pensions has divided every UK pensioner born before 1966 into 4 groups. 4 different letters are being posted to your doormat over the next 3 weeks, and only one of those 4 letters tells you to do nothing. The other 3 ask you to take a specific action, and the money you lose if you ignore the instruction ranges from £450 for the smallest cases up to over £1,800 for the most serious. In the next 20 minutes, I will walk you through all 4 letters. I will tell you which group your birth year places you in, and I will give you the exact words to say to the operator if your letter does not arrive by the end of June. Stay with me on this one, because the worst thing you can do right now is assume the letter is on its way and everything will sort itself out. In the last round of communications like this one, somewhere between 40 and 50,000 pensioners across the country never received their letter at all, and the department only discovered the gap when those pensioners had already missed a payment. I am Arthur Whitmore. This is Money in Retirement, and the next 20 minutes are the most important 20 minutes you will spend on your pension this month. The reason the DWP has divided pensioners into 4 categories for this particular round of letters comes down to a piece of legislation that was originally passed back in 2014, was scheduled to take effect in stages between April 2026 and March 2028, and which has only now reached the point where the department needs to communicate the practical consequences to every person who is affected. The change itself is to the state pension age, which is rising from 66 to 67 for everybody born after April 1960. But the way the change is being implemented is not uniform across the entire population of pensioners, and that is what has created the need for 4 separate communications. The complicating factor is that the state pension is not a single benefit. It is, in reality, 2 different schemes layered on top of one another with several legacy components attached. On the one hand, you have the old basic state pension, which is being paid to anybody who reached state pension age before April 2016. And on the other, you have the new state pension, paid to those who reached pension age on or after that date. Layered on top of both schemes is the additional state pension, an earnings-related top-up that applies to those who paid into specific schemes during their working lives, alongside the graduated retirement benefit, a smaller additional payment that some pensioners still receive from contributions made decades ago. The department has had to look at every pensioner on its books, work out which combination of these benefits each person receives, and tailor the letter to match. The result is the 4 letters I am going to describe in detail across the next sections of this video. The deadline for the new arrangements to take full effect is the 6th of April this year, and the letters started going out in the second half of May. The department has said publicly that all 440,000 letters in this batch should arrive at their destinations by the end of June. But the postal system is not perfect. The addresses on file at the DWP are not always up to date, and a significant number of pensioners will reach the end of June without anything arriving on the doormat. If that turns out to be you, the action you need to take is straightforward, and I will give you the exact phone number and the exact words to say a little later in this video. Here is Group 1, born 1967 to 1975. Potential loss of £450 per month of delay. The first category, which the DWP is internally calling Group 1, covers anybody born between the 6th of April 1967 and the 5th of April 1975. If you fall into this group, you are in the youngest category of pensioner the department writes to in this round of communications, and you are also the group most affected by the underlying change in the state pension age. The letter you will receive is the longest of the four, running to roughly 6 pages of printed text. It explains in formal language that your state pension age has now been confirmed as 67, that you cannot claim your state pension before reaching that age, regardless of any private pension arrangements you may have made, and that the date on which you become eligible has been calculated and printed on the second page of the letter. The most important thing to do when the letter arrives is to turn to that second page. Find the date printed in bold near the top and write it somewhere safe. Your diary, the inside cover of a household notebook, anywhere you will be able to find it again in a few years. The financial consequence of being in Group 1 is the lowest of the 4 groups, but it is not nothing. The change effectively pushes back the start of your state pension by between 1 month and 12 months, depending on your exact birthday, compared to what people born just a few years earlier received. Over the course of those months of waiting, you are not entitled to claim the state pension, and if you were planning your retirement around the assumption that the pension would arrive at 66, you have lost roughly £450 for every additional month of waiting. For somebody born in the middle of 1968, that comes to around £5,400 in total. Money that under the previous rules would have arrived in monthly instalments during the year you turn 66. There is no action the Group 1 letter asks you to take in terms of paperwork, phone calls, or applications. The change happens automatically based on your date of birth. The only thing the DWP is asking you to do is read the letter, note the date on the second page, and make sure your retirement planning reflects the new pension age. The reason the department is sending the letter at all, even though no action is required, is that the legal obligation under the original 2014 legislation was to give every affected person formal notice of the change in writing at least 1 year before it takes effect for them personally. That formal notice is what the Group 1 letter represents. If you are in Group 1 and you have not received your letter by the 1st of July, the action to take is to ring the DWP State Pension Service, give them your details, and ask them to confirm the new state pension age that applies to you specifically. I will give you the exact number and the exact words to say a little later in this video. Here is Group 2. Born 1957 to 1966. Potential loss of £900 if the verification slip is missed. The second category, Group 2, covers pensioners born between the 6th of April 1957 and the 5th of April 1966. If you fall into this group, you are already either drawing your state pension or close to drawing it, and the letter you will receive is fundamentally different in tone and content from the Group 1 letter. The Group 2 letter is shorter, running to roughly 4 pages, and the focus is on confirming the payment arrangements that are now in effect for you under the new state pension scheme. The letter sets out the weekly amount you are currently entitled to, prints the date on which your most recent uprating took effect, and explains what the new bank account verification process means in practice for somebody in your specific position. The bank account verification piece is the one that catches most pensioners in Group 2 off guard, because it requires you to confirm in writing that the bank account on file with the DWP is the account you currently want your pension paid into. The letter includes a single-page tear-off slip at the back with a small box that needs to be ticked, a signature line, and a free post envelope. The DWP needs that slip back within 28 days of the date the letter was issued, and if the slip does not arrive at the central processing office within that window, the department will hold your next state pension payment in a manual review queue until somebody on the phone confirms the bank account verbally. The hold typically lasts between 9 and 11 working days, depending on how busy the queue is when your case enters it. The financial loss in Group 2, if the slip is not returned on time, is around £900. That figure is calculated as the amount of one fortnightly state pension cycle for the average pensioner in this category, plus the bank charges that typically accumulate during the 9 to 11 days of waiting. Failed direct debits on the gas bill, the council tax, the home insurance premium, each one adding a charge of up to £12, plus the administrative fees from the council and the utility companies on top. The deadline for returning the slip is the 28th day after the date printed on the letter, which for most Group 2 pensioners will fall somewhere in the second half of June. If you have received your letter and you are not sure whether the deadline has passed, look at the date printed at the top right corner, count 28 days forward, and that is your deadline. If you cannot find the letter, or if you never received it, ring the DWP State Pension Service and ask them to confirm the deadline that applies to you specifically. Do not assume that any deadline you have heard about from a neighbour or a relative applies to your case, because the dates are calculated individually based on when each letter was issued. The Group 2 letter is also the one where a particular subset of pensioners face additional paperwork. Those whose bank account is in joint names with a spouse who has passed away. If the bank account on file at the DWP is registered jointly with somebody who is no longer alive, the verification process will not complete, and the department will write to you separately requesting an updated bank registration. That separate letter typically arrives 2 to 3 weeks after the original Group 2 letter, and the deadline for responding to it is a further 21 days. The combination of these two deadlines is what most often catches pensioners out, because the second letter looks similar enough to the first that some people assume it is a duplicate and put it to one side. Here is Group 3, born 1952 to 1956. Potential loss of £1,350 in lump sum compensation you may never receive. The third category, Group 3, covers pensioners born between the 6th of April 1952 and the 5th of April 1956. If you fall into this group, you are receiving the old basic state pension under the pre-2016 system. And the letter you will receive is focused on confirming the additional state pension component that sits on top of your basic payment. The Group 3 letter is the one that contains the largest amount of detail about money that you may not have realised you were entitled to. The additional state pension, which is the earnings-related top-up that depends on your national insurance contribution record from your working years, is something that a significant proportion of Group 3 pensioners have never had calculated against their current circumstances. The letter asks you to check the amount printed on the second page against your most recent payment statements, and if there is a discrepancy of more than £1 a week, to ring the State Pension Service and ask for the calculation to be reviewed. The reason this matters financially is that the underpayment scandal of recent years, which the National Audit Office documented in detail between 2021 and 2023, mostly affected pensioners in what is now being called Group 3. The average underpayment identified in the scandal was around £1,350, paid as a lump sum once the error was confirmed, with affected pensioners then going on to receive an uprated weekly payment going forward. The department has been working through the backlog of cases ever since, but the Group 3 letter is the first formal communication that asks every recipient to actively check their own record, rather than waiting for the department to find errors itself. The action required of you if you are in Group 3 is to read the letter carefully, find the additional state pension figure on the second page, and compare it against the figure on your most recent payment statement from the DWP. If the two figures match, no further action is needed. If they do not match, or if you cannot find your payment statement, ring the State Pension Service and ask the operator to read out the current calculation on your file. The deadline for this check is not absolute, but the practical advice is to make the call within 14 days of receiving the letter, because the queue for these reviews tends to build up significantly once the letters have all been delivered and pensioners start ringing in. The earlier you call, the shorter the wait. The financial loss in Group 3, if the discrepancy exists and is not identified, is roughly £1,350 in lump sum compensation that you would never receive, plus the ongoing weekly uplift that you would continue to miss for the rest of your life. For a pensioner with another 15 to 20 years of expected payments ahead of them, the ongoing loss can come to several £1,000s in total, depending on how large the weekly discrepancy turns out to be. Here is Group 4, born before 1951. Potential loss of £1,800 or more in lump sum compensation. The fourth category, Group 4, covers pensioners born before the 6th of April 1951. If you fall into this group, you are the oldest cohort of pensioners the DWP writes to in this round. You are receiving a combination of the basic state pension, the additional state pension, and in many cases, the graduated retirement benefit that was introduced back in the 1960s. And the letter you will receive is the most important of the four, both because the financial consequences of ignoring it are the largest, and because the recipients are the most likely to have address details on file that have not been updated for several decades. The Group 4 letter focuses on confirming the full set of payment components that you are currently entitled to. It lists the basic state pension amount, the additional state pension amount, the graduated retirement benefit if you receive one, and the total weekly figure that should be hitting your bank account on your standard payment day. The action required if you are in Group 4 is to compare every line on the second page of the letter against your most recent 2 or 3 payment statements. The reason for this is that the underpayment issues affecting Group 3 pensioners also apply, in some cases more severely, to Group 4 pensioners. And the longer the underpayment has been going on, the larger the lump sum correction tends to be when the error is finally identified. The average lump sum payment to a Group 4 pensioner, whose record needs correcting, has been in the region of £1,800, and in some cases substantially higher. The deadline for action in Group 4 is the most flexible of the 4 groups, because the changes affecting older pensioners under this round of communications are not tied to a specific automated cut-off the way the Group 2 verification is. But the practical recommendation is to act within 10 working days of the letter arriving, because the Group 4 cases tend to require the most paperwork to resolve, and the operators at the State Pension Service work through them in the order they are received. The earlier you ring, the faster your case is processed. The other reason Group 4 pensioners need to take this letter seriously is the graduated retirement benefit component, which dates back to a scheme that closed in 1975. This is the part of the payment record most likely to have been miscalculated at some point in the last 50 years. The original graduated retirement benefit contributions were recorded on paper in many cases, and not every record was transferred cleanly to the digital systems the DWP now uses. If your letter lists a graduated retirement benefit figure that looks lower than you remember it being a few years ago, or that does not appear at all when you remember being told you were entitled to one, that is the strongest single signal that a phone call is needed. If you are in any of the 4 groups and your letter has not arrived by the end of June, or if the letter has arrived but you have spotted a discrepancy between the figures it lists and the figures on your payment statements, the action to take is the same in every case. Ring the DWP State Pension Service on the free phone number 0800 731 469. The line is open Monday to Friday from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. The call is free from any UK landline or any UK mobile phone, including pay-as-you-go phones. Before you dial, sit down at a table with a pen, a piece of paper, and 3 pieces of information written out in front of you. Write down your full legal name as it appears on your state pension paperwork. Write down your date of birth alongside it. And write down your national insurance number underneath, the combination of 2 letters at the start, 6 digits in the middle, and 1 letter at the end. You can find your national insurance number on any old payslip, any P60 form, or on the most recent state pension award letter you have at home. When the operator answers, the words to use are these, almost word for word. I am ringing about the recent communication the DWP has been sending out to pensioners regarding the changes taking effect in April. My letter has not arrived yet, and I would like you to confirm which group I am in and what action, if any, I need to take. The operator will then ask for your name, date of birth, and national insurance number to confirm your identity, after which they will look up your file and tell you within 2 or 3 minutes which group your letter falls into and whether anything has been issued to you yet. If the operator confirms that the letter was issued but never reached you, they can reissue it on the spot, send it to the address currently on file, or update the address on file if it has changed since you last contacted the department. If the operator confirms that no letter has yet been issued, they can flag your case for priority processing, which typically brings the letter forward by between 2 and 3 weeks compared to the standard processing queue. The quietest times to ring the DWP State Pension Service are Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday morning between 10 and 12 noon. Mondays are heavy with weekend overflow, and Fridays are heavy with people trying to sort things out before the weekend. The wait time on a quiet Tuesday morning is usually under 10 minutes. On a busy Monday, it can be 20 minutes or more. There are 2 specific scams running in the run-up to the end of June that I need to warn you about, because both of them have been particularly active over the last 2 weeks, and both of them are targeting exactly the audience watching this video. The first scam is the email scam. You may receive an email claiming to be from the Department for Work and Pensions, asking you to click a link to confirm your bank details, your national insurance number, or your date of birth in order to ensure your pension is paid on time. The Department for Work and Pensions does not communicate with pensioners about pension matters by email. Every genuine communication from the department comes through the post on official letterhead with a reference number and a phone number you can ring back. If you receive an email of this kind, do not click any links, do not reply to the email, and do not ring any number quoted in the message. Delete the email, or if you want to help, forward it to the National Cybersecurity Centre at report@phishing.gov.uk before deleting. The second scam is the cold call scam. You may receive a phone call from somebody claiming to be from the DWP, asking you to confirm your bank details or your national insurance number so that your next pension payment can be released. The department does not make outbound calls to pensioners about pension verification. If you receive a call of this kind, hang up immediately. Do not engage with the caller. Do not ring back any number they leave on your voicemail. Then ring the official free phone number yourself, report the call, and ask the operator to flag the number that was used. The reason the scammers are particularly active right now is that they know the letters are going out. They know millions of pensioners are expecting some kind of communication from the DWP in the next few weeks. And they know that a pensioner who is half expecting a letter is more likely to take a phone call or an email seriously than one who is not. Stay skeptical of anything that arrives by phone or email. Ring the official line yourself when in doubt. And do not let anybody else dictate when or how you have that conversation. Before I close out this video, if you have not yet watched my previous video on the banking pattern that is now triggering HMRC reviews for pensioners across the country, you can find it pinned in the description below. That video covers a separate change that affects every pensioner with a bank account, regardless of which of the 4 groups you fall into for the state pension letter. The 2 pieces of information together are what every pensioner watching this channel should have at the front of their mind in the next few weeks. If this video has been useful to you, the single most helpful thing you can do is share it with one other person who is on a state pension or approaching state pension age. Most pensioners across the country have not yet heard about the 4-letter system, and the difference between catching the right deadline and missing it can be over £1,800 for the worst affected cases. Subscribe to this channel for new videos on what UK pensioners need to know about their money in plain English. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next update, and I will see you in the next video.